And welcome in everybody to the Summit City Sports Report. I am Jeff Mahoney. As always, we have Tim Atkinson joining us, and we have the head coach of the Lawrence North Wildcats, Patrick Mallory, joining us as well. Coach Mallory is just now leaving a middle school game, so he's actually on the road heading back home. But Coach, thanks so much for joining us. How did the middle school game go?
Well, that was our game one in our series with our rival Lawrence Central's middle school team. So the Wildcats pulled it out tonight, 40-6.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on that one, Coach. And congratulations on your big win this past Friday at your rival, Lawrence Central, once again, 33-26. A great way to open up the season, Coach. How pleased were you with your team's performance?
Well, you know, we got on them a little early there and actually went up 3 scores, and then I feel like we just kind of got out of our rhythm, and we had some unnecessary penalties, and things just kind of started getting away, and we weren't focused there for about half of a quarter, and then we got back to work. We actually stopped them before half. They scored, then we stopped them, and then we come out and score from the opening drive of the second half. So with that, you know, I'm pleased. Our kids, I thought, played hard. Just that game one, and that game one being your rival, there's a lot of emotions in that game. So there's clearly a lot of things that people got to work on, you know, no matter what team you are coming out of week one. But definitely for your Wildcats, we gotta clean some stuff up and keep putting one foot in front of the next.
Well, Coach, I got to believe you were pretty pleased with your quarterback's performance. Tanner Asplett, he completed 13 of 19 passes for 211 yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, that was a pretty much an almost flawless performance there.
Yeah, Tanner did a great job leading his team, and you know, the quarterback, you're kind of a captain, but you're also the head coach on the field, and that's how I always tell him all the time, is you're the head coach. And the head coaches have got to make sure they stay one step ahead of everybody else. You got to stay calm, collected, and you know, my emotions, I get into my emotions too. I want to win, and I'm a fiery guy, so I just tell him all the time, it's like, hey man, if you see me losing my mind, then you can lose your mind. But until then, you got to stay calm.
Yeah, and Coach, I mean, the numbers, the completion percentage, outstanding. He stayed mistake-free, which obviously as a head coach is the number one key for a quarterback besides the leadership. But the weapons that he has on the outside, I mean, Lawrence North and Coach Mallory's in a pretty good spot this year with that trio of wide receivers that you have. Talk a little bit about the game that they played. Of course, Chandler with the 112 yards on 6 catches and the TD, the IU commit. Talk about that receiving core a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, you know, Davion's been good his whole life. You know, he's just one of those kids that's gifted, and a year ago he really made the commitment that he wanted to try to be the best. And so he's like, Coach, you know, I mean, I'm gonna lock in. I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna change around my grades. I'm just gonna change and just see how good I can be. And you know, he did a great job with it. The trio of receivers are also track kids for me. I'm also the head track coach at our school. So they all 3 of those kids all made the state track meet. So Davion, you know, and running the high hurdles, and Manshawn Sales running the 4x1, the 200 and the 100, and then Demario Moore in the 100 and the 300s. And Demario actually medaled in both events at the state track meet. So, you know, the great part is we do have some speed out of those guys, and their ability to track the ball is really, really good. But at the same time, they're good kids. And they have really great leadership. Demario's quiet, but he leads by example. He goes hard every single play, whether that's in practice or in a game. So, and Manshawn and Davion, they got some good character. They can make anybody laugh, but at the same time, they know when it's time to work and they go to work. So as a coach, I mean, that's really all you can expect is for those kids to know when to work and then go to work.
Yeah, Coach, and then to round out that backfield with Asplit, you have a returning running back that gained over 1,000 yards in his freshman year, and Xavion Moore. I mean, the weapons right now that you have there in Wildcat land, it's something pretty special.
Yeah, it is. I mean, stuff like this doesn't come around all that often, no matter what school you're at. Not usually at the same time, but we've talked a lot with the kids about, guys, that we know you're all talented. We know you all want the ball, but if we're only going to get anywhere from 50, 60, maybe 70 plays in a game if you're lucky. We got to share the wealth, but we also got to take what the defense has given us. So, just keep doing your job, and when the ball comes your way, you got to, I tell them all the time, players make plays. So if you get to touch that ball, you better make plays.
Coach, Monshun Sales, is that who they call Bama on the team?
Correct.
Where did that nickname come from?
He's from Birmingham, Alabama, and he doesn't really he doesn't care for his first name very much, so he's been called Bama forever.
That's hilarious. Well, Coach, moving to the defensive side of the ball, two names popped out to me right away, Patrick Mallory and Breck Mallory. Tell us about these two young fine men.
Well, these two get to hear Coach Mallory about 24 hours a day, and no, it's awesome. Lance Scheib up here, longtime coach, and works with the ISC network, and Lance, he told me a couple years ago, he's like, Coach, Pat, it's great, and I love it for you because when you have kids that get to play for you, it's like stealing time. You get extra time with those dudes, and it really is. It's great. Now they're older. Kale's a senior and Breck's a junior, and so they're driving now. So we don't get all of the car time that we used to get, but still at least 1 or 2 days a week, usually on Mondays and Fridays, I make them ride with me so Dad can still have his time with his boys.
Well, I'll tell you what, Coach, there's serious producers for your defense. Kale,
Right.
the senior, goes 6'2", 225 defensive end. Breck goes 6'2", 200. He's only a junior, folks, and he had 11 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 3 QB hurries in that win against Lawrence Central. Oh, man, to coach your own kids, but also for them to have the success that they're having, Coach, you got to be living out a dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great, and I'm. Most people probably think I'm hard on them about football, and I want them to win, and I want them to be physical and aggressive, but at the same time, you're my kids. If you don't have A's and B's, I'm not too sure I can let you out on that football field, because the expectation that Mom and I have for you is you got to be a student, and then you're going to be an athlete. And they've grown up with this. They were born when I was an assistant down at Center Grove, and they try to say that they remember me coaching at Center Grove, but they just know pictures and videos and when I tell stories. But and then for now 12 years at Lawrence North, they've grown up on that sideline. So I think it means more to them, because they've grown up on that sideline. They've watched Dad take over a struggling program and really put all of our heart and soul and all of our family time into that. So it means a lot to them to go out there and try to perform. And I tell them all the time, don't do this for me. I played football, and I played college football, and I was like, I want you guys to do this stuff for yourself. I'm just happy and lucky that I get a chance to be your coach and watch you guys every single day.
Yeah, and it's not only your sons. I mean, just looking at the stat sheet from last week against the rival, I mean, 86 total tackles as a club, three players in double digits in tackles. Of course, your son, and then Lumsford and Beeler, both in double-digit tackles. 11 tackles for loss as a defense. In a hype game like that, playing your rival in the first week, Talk about your defense coming out and making a stand. I mean, giving up some points, I'm sure you'd like to have back. But looking at just the stat line, I'm seeing players moving sideline to sideline, really attacking the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. They, these kids, especially this senior class, they've been playing with us since about sixth grade. You know, we had them in a little travel league, and we traveled them around, and we played in a lot of games and a lot of different venues, and knowing that these kids had a chance, to be successful, not only in high school, but make a name for themselves and be able to go to college and be successful too. So we really spent a lot of our time building these kids, like I said, from sixth grade on up. So a lot of those kids, we try to put the best kids on defense. And that's really, we try to work that defense, and then we work on offense. And so with Day-Day and Davion are actually brothers. So, we've got 5 sets of brothers on in our program. And, anyway, go back to the just sideline to sideline. I talk a lot about expectations, and you got to meet my expectations. And one of those expectations is you got to be fast. Now, that doesn't mean you're necessarily running a 4.40. We got one of those in DeMario Moore, but not everybody's going to run that. But everybody can play fast, whatever your fast is. So, I have these kids run track with me, whether they're on the competition track team or not, and they learn how to run, they learn how to sprint, and then we get into spring football, and they learn how to run sideline to sideline. And so hopefully when you watch our games, you really see that sideline to sideline speed, because we definitely work on that.
And then an outstanding duo in safeties, of course, led by Jerome Smith, who's a Miami of Ohio commit, 23rd ranked player in the state. I mean, on paper, this is an all-around very solid defense, and we just came off of watching one of the better defenses we've seen in a long time, Jeff and I, since covering high school in Warren Central. We're really excited to see this defense, especially with them back there in that safety spot as well.
Yeah, Jerome does a great job. For most of the year, Jerome was the second fastest 200-meter sprinter, and he's also a 110-meter hurdler. So if you can't tell, I fully believe in track, and you build speed by running track. And if you're going to expect your kids to do it, you better do it yourself. So we coach it as well, all of us. So, the speed on defense, the speed on offense. Everybody talks about having speed, but what are you willing to do to try to build that speed? Because I truly believe, kids are born fast, but I also believe that you can teach speed.
Absolutely, Coach. You can teach quicks as well. Muscle memory is a great thing. Coach, the Dwayne Bell Trophy, that's what you guys got for winning your rivalry game against Lawrence Central. And for those that may not know, once again, we do have Lawrence North coach Patrick Mallory on with us. He's in his 12th year at Lawrence Central with the Wildcats. But, Coach, that trophy right there, is that goal number 1 when you start the season?
Well, you always want to beat your rival. When I first started there and took that program over, it wasn't even a thought of Lawrence North beating Lawrence Central, and it wasn't even a thought of Lawrence North really winning football games. Our first goal really was to try to fill in the hole and start to be able to build something. And then, a few years later, we're actually in playing really close games with the likes of Lawrence Central and Ben Davis and Warren Central and Center Grove, and we just couldn't quite get over that hump. And here we are in our, really 5th year from feeling like we've kind of turned it around. And you want to win that game because you want that trophy, and you want those rights to be able to say we own that trophy for another year. But at the same time, you also got to look at it as, if that's the only thing you're really looking at, you're kind of missing the picture. And so, I'm kind of cliche a little bit. It's that one game at a time. Try to go 1-0 each week. But yeah, win it and move to the next week. So that's usually the MO. Is go win, do what you got to do your job, and then move on to the next week.
Yeah, you had one heck of a rebuilding project when you took that job over in 2012. In 2013. As you can see, folks, 0-10, 3-7. And we did get a chance to talk with Kyle Needonrip, the great reporter from the Indianapolis Star. And he said this sectional in 2021 was huge for the community and for Lawrence North. He said that was the first sectional title in over 30 years at the school. Coach, Lawrence North might have the richest basketball tradition on the boys' side in the state.
No doubt.
For you to come in there and to be under that shadow, did you feel like that was a factor that helped you with the rebuilding, or that hurt because there was such a good program right there on campus?
Yeah, when I first got the job, I walked down to Jack Keeper's office and I said, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" He's like, "Hey, I'm great. What can I do for you?" I said, "Well, I want to know if you want to go and grab lunch someday." He's like, "Well, let's go right now. I'm free." So we went to lunch and we really sat down and had a 2-hour lunch. And I just said, "I want to know what you know." I looked you up, and I know you were at Oak Hill, and you did a couple other things as well. And it wasn't always what everybody sees and thinks about Lawrence North basketball. What did you do? And he said, "I'm going to tell you something that I'm sure you already know, and it's not a secret, but most people cannot do it." He said, "You just have to keep working." And he said, "You can't give up. Don't give up on them. You're going to have bad times because this is a rough job, especially taking that football job." He said, "It's rough, and it's going to be rough for you, but someday your hard work will pay off, and everybody will take notice." And he said, "But you still got to keep working. Just keep your nose down. Don't listen to what everybody else has to say, and just keep working." And he's not wrong. I worked for 10 years for the great Eric Moore at Center Grove, and he didn't say anything different than that either. And, everybody, I just feel like so many people believe that there's some kind of magic potion or there's a secret play, and it's never a magic potion or a secret play. It is tough, hard work, and we really believe in tough love, and our kids will tell you that too. Tell us about Coach Mallory. Man, it's all tough love with Coach Mallory, but he gonna love you for the rest of your life. You just better work hard and be ready.
Yeah, that's outstanding, Coach, and one to listen to. And Coach Keeper, there's no doubt about that. You went to the right office that day, for sure. You mentioned track several times. Of course, they got a lot of track athletes, which you probably saw as well over at Northside. Your matchup coming this Friday. They have a lot of momentum after the Northridge win this past Friday night in a tough environment at Northridge. They got the new turf. They're unveiling it at Chambers Field here Friday night. They expect a very hype crowd out there. But back to the track stuff, they have some track athletes as well. How much do you know about those skill athletes as well for Northside?
Yeah, I take a look. I do my homework, and so I typically, throughout some days, I'll pull up people's rosters, and then I'll look at the basketball roster, and I'll look at their track roster. I'll look at the baseball roster. Sometimes you can't find it, but usually you can. And I'll look and I'll see if I can match up some different names. So when we played them last year at our place, the first thing I noticed was, man, they got some size and they've got some speed. So then I started looking into it, and I was like, all right, this kid runs track. He runs track. Somebody up here understands what I would believe is the magic potion. But at the same time, you still got to line up and play football. But I think highly of them. I see what they've done, what they've worked with, and what Coach Johnson has done since he's been in there. And I give them all the praise. I mean, Northridge beat them last year, and we watched that film and we broke that film down, and then they go to Northridge and beat them this year. So they do a great job. Absolutely.
And coach, your defense, when we were talking about sideline to sideline, the weapons that Northside has, of course, the dual threat quarterback and Tristan Newsome moving from safety, now becoming a quarterback here after not playing quarterback since his freshman year, threw for over 200 yards, rushed for over 100 yards. They got a dynamic sophomore and running back. That backfield is extremely tough and quick, which what we talked about sideline to sideline is going to come into play for the Wildcats for sure.
Absolutely. And, that's one thing we've worked on all week. And, I mean, I don't think it's a secret what everybody feels like they need to do. But, I mean, you got to contain that speed and you got to contain Newsome and try not to let him get away on you, because it's just like our kids. If our kids can get in the open field, they're hard to catch.
Coach, I was at St. Francis for 10 years, University of St. Francis in Fort Wayne. One of my favorite Lawrence North players was Corey Stamps. How well do you know Corey Stamps?
I know Corey very well. Corey has worked for me in our middle school. He was on our freshman staff for one season, and everybody told me about Corey when I got there and when Corey got out of St. Francis, and then he came back into Indianapolis and came and met me, and he's on my sideline about every Friday night. I'll see if he's going to make that, hour and 40 or 2 hour trek up to the north side of Fort Wayne and be with us tomorrow. So we'll see tomorrow if Corey's on the sideline. But yeah, Corey does a great job. He was a great Wildcat. He was great up at St. Francis for Coach Donnelly, and I feel like I've had about 6 players in my time at Lawrence North play up there for Coach Donnelly. And actually my son Cale, it's a senior right now, that was his first offer was from Coach Donnelly.
Yeah, Coach Donnelly's a smart man, that's for sure. one of the winningest college football coaches of all time. He's right up there with Joe Pod and those guys. Coach, everybody knows that the MIC is the best conference in the state. The Hoosier Conference is also very good as the surrounding area of Indy is getting bigger and bigger. But in your 12 years there, is Lawrence Central, is that your favorite team to play, or who do you feel like your best matchups have been against?
I would probably say the township game is probably my least favorite, to be honest, just because there's so much emotion that goes into that game with these kids, because they've all grown up together. They're all friends. They all hang out before the game, after the game, all weekend long. And it's just emotionally draining as a program to play that township rivalry game. So, I was thoroughly exhausted Saturday afternoon after the JV and freshman games were finished, because that was just 3 long, emotionally draining games. So, that's probably my least favorite. I don't know if I really have a favorite. You look at our schedule, especially the mixed schedule, and then once we get into the playoffs, and basically we have to play our schedule almost over again if you want to make it all the way through the playoffs. You're going to see Center Grove probably in the regionals. You're going to see Ben Davis in the Center Grove in the semi-state. We'll see Ben Davis in the regionals. We'll see Cathedral, LC, and North Central again in sectionals. So, yeah, I really wish I'm on the bandwagon with a lot of other people. I wish we would seed. I wish we would go to seeding for the state tournament, because everybody across the state, you usually wind up playing people that you've played on your regular season roster, right, or regular season schedule, and there's nowhere else you really do that. I mean, baseball, they cross the leagues, and in college football, I mean, very seldom would you ever wind up playing, somebody that you've already played on your schedule. And here in high school, we're with the all-in format and then a potluck draw in the sectionals. I mean, I can't tell you in the 12 years I think I've played Lawrence Central in either game 1 or game 2, at least 7 times.
Wow.
You know, so I wish, I think it would give us, some more notoriety if we would seed our tournament. And I know people at the IHSAA they do not like when us coaches start talking about seeding and wanting some different rules. But, you know, we're truly the ones that are on the front line, and we're truly the ones that are building these kids and trying to do the best for our school as possible. You know, I mean, yeah, we branched out and playing up in Fort Wayne for a 2-game series, but outside of that, you know, we don't get to play Valparaiso or Penn or go down south and, you know, play some of the 6A teams down south. Everything's about the Indianapolis area or inside that 465 donut for us. So it just gets tough, and I know the Fort Wayne schools will say the same thing, and I know the Evansville schools will say the same thing as well. But I think one of the biggest reasons is they don't want all the driving and transportation time and cost. But you know what? It is the state playoffs. So many states have to drive. You know, the state of Pennsylvania, they have 2 totally different state championships in Western PA and the rest of Pennsylvania, just because their state's so big, but they still travel hours to play each other. Why can't we?
Yeah. And California does the same with Northern and Southern. And Coach, for the longest time, 6A schools didn't think it was fair because Carmel was in the Northern division, so they got to kind of get away from all the mixed schools and, you know, just not have to take on that competition to get to that game. I would agree with you 100%. I feel like you could almost break it up south and north for classes 1 through 4, but then you could open it up statewide for classes 5 and 6, especially 6A where there's not as many teams. And we have the Sagarin ratings.
Yeah. And that's the thing is we just use those Sagarin ratings. I mean, they're pretty accurate.
I'd agree.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about that for basketball too, and seeding the high school basketball. It just takes just a little bit more effort for beneficial for our kids and our high schools. It's well worth the effort. And I know Jeff and I's opinion.
Yeah. And, you know, like I alluded to earlier, I want to go north and play teams. I want to go south and play teams. You know, for most of our kids, and I'm sure it's probably a lot coming out of Evansville kids and the northern part of the state kids as well, our kids don't leave Indianapolis very often. You know, let them get out and see Fort Wayne. Let them get out and see Evansville because they may never, you know. Right. So again, this is educational based sports. So let's show these kids. Let's give them an education. Let's travel them. Let's get rid of the travel rule. And if I can go out and take my team out to California and play a team, if I can fundraise that money and pay for it, why can't we?
Yeah, and you know that's where maybe we can also get creative and think of ways of having fan buses and things of that nature. Because Tim and I will tell you, as little football players, we would travel all over the state to watch Bishop Dwenger because that was the school that we were going into, and Dwenger had a lot of success in the early '90s. But I don't know about you, Tim, the experience of just traveling and seeing these different places, I'll never forget.
Oh yeah, because I've gone back and we've done, you know, some basketball games where they travel a little bit more throughout the season before the playoffs. And I was like, I remember being there when I was 10 years old. And I remember that field, or I remember that gymnasium. You know, it's that sort of thing. I think it just brings the whole state of Indiana more as one, instead of saying a pocket of Indy, a pocket of Fort Wayne, a pocket of South Bend and Crown Point, or a pocket in Evansville, instead of saying it's one culmination of the great state of Indiana in football.
Yep. So you guys are Coach Schwarzkopf fans, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Well, you know his brother was an LN wrestling coach, and then before his brother retired, he was the director of our career center called McKenzie. So so there's some Indy and Fort Wayne ties with the Schwarzkopfs there.
And
that's all. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I just got to ask you, Coach, any relation with Kurt Mallory, the coach at Indiana State? I mean, a lot of similarities in facial features and whatnot.
Oh, sure. So I would say that if I had to say I'm in like anybody out of the whole Mallory family, I would say I'm more tied towards Coach Bill Mallory, God rest his soul.
Yes.
But he was very fiery, and he had his lock your jaw statement and get after it. And Coach Mallory recruited me to IU, and then he was relieved of his duties, and then I winded up playing for Cam Cameron. But no, we are not, as far as I know, we are not related. But what Coach Mal always said was, well, if we're not related by blood, we surely are related by water, because we are two of the same people.
So Coach,
cut from the same pigskin.
Coach, you were at IU when Jabbar Robinson got there, correct?
Oh yeah, Fort Wayne Snyder guy, right?
Yeah, 4-year starter at linebacker.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, his nickname to everybody was just Bar, right? Yeah. And but Jabbar was a great guy. I mean, just very, very well spoken, and just very even keeled. But man, could he play football?
Yes.
And his son's a real good football player too. Where's he at right now? Yeah. What school's he at?
Western Missouri, I believe, a D2.
Yeah, there you go.
ISO.
Yep.
Yeah, ISO.
There you go. Yeah, it's great. I never got to meet his boy, but Jabbar. Yeah, we were pretty close. Jabbar, I think, was a year. I think he was a year older than me.
Oh, okay. And what high school did you come from, Coach?
I graduated from Mount Vernon High School here in Fortville, Indiana, close to Indy.
Yeah, so that's where Coach Kirshner went. Coach Kirshner took over for Jason West. You coached with Jason West at Center Grove?
Actually, Jason was there a year before I got there, and then Jason went to, I think, Sebring High School down in Florida, and then that's when I came in, and I was with Eric for 10 years.
Okay, and now he's at Franklin Central, so
yep,
a lot of good coaches.
And Coach Kirshner, here's kind of that full life circle, right? Coach Kirshner was when I was in Warren, because I used to go to Warren before Mount Vernon, and Coach Kirshner was my Warren Tomahawks 5th and 6th grade travel coach. How about
that? Wow. Indy's a big city, right? No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I still don't even know all the places around here, and I've lived here for 47 years.
Oh wow.
Well, if they keep up with the construction, you won't go very far anyway.
You don't. It takes you an hour just to barely move 20 miles around here right now.
My son plays travel baseball. We played at Indy Sports Park a couple of times this summer, and trying to navigate getting back to Fort Wayne from the southwest side of town was never easy.
It's crazy. Absolutely insane.
Well, Coach, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim. That's all you.
Yeah, well, you were talking about stepping out. How did this Northside and LN relationship come about? Was it just the timing of us moving to the big and breaking our divisions up to let the SAC schools go out? Did they reach out to you? Did you guys see the opening and reach out to them? How did that go down?
Well, so you got the first part correct, where they broke out, and I thought it was a great idea when the Fort Wayne schools all decided, hey, we need to, if we really want to up our game, we need to get into Indy and play some Indy teams, and that's never going to hurt. The old adage of if you want to be the best, you got to try to beat the best, and you got to play. I think that's one thing that usually makes the Indy schools very, very competitive, is that they grow up playing competitively. And I'm not saying the other parts of the state do not either, but there's just so many people in Indianapolis and so many teams. Now you've got just these kids that are growing up playing at these high rates of speed and strength and ability, that they see it every week, in their schedules every year that they've played. So I thought that was a great idea when Fort Wayne coaches all got together, and then the ADs all, made it happen. So we actually were looking for a game. So, as you guys probably know, as you start to win some games and you kind of build your program and get your program better, people aren't exactly knocking on your door to play, kind of like they were in 2013. I feel like everybody wanted to play me when I took the job in 2013. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure we put out, everybody puts out, looking for games on the IHSA website, and I'm pretty sure the ADs of all of the Fort Wayne schools just started talking to every Indy school as they could, and then it was like, all right, well, Carroll picked up such and such, and who's South, who's Snyder playing, and I really think just by how everybody started building an allegiance is how we and Northside came to do this 2-year deal.
So do you feel like you're going to continue trying to come up north, for a couple of games, or trying to match up with an SAC school, whether it be Northside or another team in the future?
Well, we are not against it whatsoever. I know that after this game, we're not playing again in the near future. And then we have picked up Fishers for next year. So, 10 minutes down the road from our school. But at the same time, yeah, I want to. And we actually needed trying to fill some games this year. And we put it out all across basically the Midwest trying to find games. So I love to travel and I want to travel my kids. I said it earlier, this is educational based sports. And I think we need to make sure our kids can see some different stuff and not just see the same streets and roads and buildings that they see every day anyway. And I really think that can help kids with understanding there's a different world out there, and for them to be able to go and experience that different world that is out there.
Yeah, no doubt. I just wanted to highlight here number 5. That is Patrick Mallory at 6'2", 200. Tim, he kind of looks like Braden Steely a little bit.
Yeah, Braden Steely from Carroll. That's the same body style and everything. There's no doubt about that.
Coach, what do you really like about Breck's game?
Man, he is well, when he was little, we used to always talk about, he's like a bull in a china shop. And, just knocking into stuff and running and wanting to tackle. I feel like he was trying to tackle me before he could even really walk. And so just that athleticism that he does have, and that ability to just, I look at him and watch him play sometimes, and I look back and I see like a guy like Brian Urlacher that would just let his body go for the good of the team. Yeah. And that's what I see. And, I know it's my son, and oh my gosh, he just compared him to Brian Urlacher. No, that's not exactly. I'm just saying that that's what I see, because I'm not a Bears fan. I'm actually a Steelers fan, but I was a gigantic Brian Urlacher fan, because I just felt like the size of that guy and his ability to get from one side to the other, that 53 1/3 yards wide was unbelievable as compared to some of the other guys in the league. So,
yeah, I was going to say, Coach, he doesn't look like Brian Urlacher. He looks like TJ Watt.
Yeah, there you go.
I think he wouldn't mind either comparison either.
No, now I will tell you, we're big Steeler fans. We usually go to Pittsburgh once or twice during the off season here, and usually December, And so if you said he looks like TJ Watt, I think he's going to just eat that up, because he loves TJ Watt. There's no doubt.
There's a lot to love.
We are calling the broadcast on Friday night. That may come up. We'll throw you a bone, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, Coach, before we let you go so you can get a good night's rest, what's left of the night, was there anything else you wanted to add before you guys make the trip up north, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Chambers Field, for week number 2 of the IHSAA season?
No, I just hope that anybody traveling to the game, no matter how far or near they're coming, I hope everybody, has safe travels. I hope everybody will come out and watch a game. I really do think it'll be a good game because I think Northside has a lot of firepower. And I've been saying all week long, guys, we got to go in. We're in for a battle because they're good. I thought they were good last year, and I think they're even better this year is what my thought is. So I hope everybody has a great game. I hope everybody comes out and watches it, and I hope everybody's safe in playing so.
Yeah, Coach, Tim and I firmly believe that they got 3 sophomores that could be on that 247 sports, top 25, 50 kids in the state. Tim, did you have any last words for Coach Mallory?
No, Coach, I really appreciate you taking your time out. We all have busy schedules, and especially with you preparing to come down Friday. Really the only other question I had is how early are you guys planning on leaving? I know some schools and some coaches have a little bit different outline of how they like to do things and when they like to leave, how early they take their kids out of school and that sort of thing.
Yep.
How do you handle in that?
Yeah, so at 2:00, the kids are to come out to our outdoor locker room, and our parents will be out there to feed them their pregame meal and give them their snack bags for the ride up, and then even their stuff for the ride back. And we went ahead and handed out our uniforms already tonight, so we could already have that done. So really, we can feed them. We've already started the hydration process, but we still got to hydrate them tomorrow as well and keep hydrating. But we're trying to load up the bus at 3. That way, gives us a couple hours to get up there, and just in case something happens, traffic slows us down or whatever, because it is hard to get in and out of Indy. And and then even if we need to stop, because we've been overhydrating these kids, so even if we have to stop and use the restroom, just want to be able to give ourselves a little bit more time.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. You're going to need that because it's orange barrel country up here in the 260 as well. So
Sure.
it's no easy going right now in the state.
Orange
Something
barrel.
about that 265 and this 465 and 269 and 469. What are they doing here to us? It doesn't matter where it is.
Well, Coach, we are expecting a high of 94 tomorrow, so I understand when you're saying overhydrate them.
Yeah. Now the great part is, the great part is it looks like it's maybe 85 comes that 7 o'clock kickoff, and by 8 o'clock it looks like it's going to be around 80. The key really is not so much the heat; it's this humidity that really is bothersome. So,
yeah. Well, Coach, once again, we really appreciate you joining us. Congratulations on the middle school victory and your victory last Friday against your rival.
Hey, thank you very much. I enjoy you guys inviting me on. I love talking football, and I really love talking about our kids.
Absolutely, Coach.
That's one thing that comes across 100%, Coach. We really appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow night, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
See you, Coach.
See you, Coach.
Well, that was Coach Patrick Mallory. Impressive. I mean, love talking with these coaches, Tim. And Coach Mallory is absolutely bringing the heat with him down from Indy. I mean, Asplat, we saw a picture over there on the Twitter. I had that pulled up a little bit. But at 6'4", 210, he was a starter last year, too, in this game. But you remember Coach Johnson mentioned the big 6'4" quarterback also has some wheels.
Yeah, and I believe, didn't Kyle say that he just picked up a Virginia offer? Was that right, Jeff?
I'm going to have to double check that one. Wow, really?
I think Kyle Needham said that he just picked up a Virginia offer. But, yeah, I mean, that's not very often in the high school game in the state of Indiana where you're going to see a quarterback that big. Maybe some height, but some thickness like that, and can move. There's very few players and quarterbacks, especially in Fort Wayne, that have done it. Bodie Dickerson comes off the top of my mind just because it was more recent of being, 6'5" or whatever he is, with some speed. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting environment out there to Northside. I know all the Northside coaches, Jeff, are dying for that stands to be packed. But this kid right here that you're pulling up right now, he's a game maker. He was 13 for 19, 211 yards for a 68 percentage completion. I mean, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yep.
That's what's going to be key, because Northside, I think their best chance of pulling this quote unquote upset is being able to turn LN over a little bit.
Yeah.
And from what they showed, Coach Mallory, is they're not turning the ball over, especially in a hype environment against their rival, Jeff.
Yeah, Tim, and this right here, this is Demario Moore making the catch. You heard Coach Mallory say he's legit 4.4 speed.
Whew. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely moving. I mean, he touched on it a couple times about the track, and how important that is. I mean, if the kids haven't got it, one of the best running backs out there in the league for the past several years, and Christian McCaffrey, he says that track is one of the main reasons that he has got his speed. Now it helps with his bloodlines and how his dad raised him, with not having any carbs and no pop, no caffeine. He was raised to be a superstar. But when you ask Christian McCaffrey, I've heard a couple interviews, that the track is so important, with teaching you the right ways to move, and do that. And as you see right there in Ludington, I mean, what a game he had.
Yes.
I mean, this kid is tremendous. 5 total tackles, had a tackle for a loss.
1 sack, 4 QB hurries, 1 pass defended. He goes 6'4", 235.
Yeah, and it's a different team than what Northside played in Northridge. Northridge, a very solid football program. They have been for years, and that's not an easy place to play at. But this Lawrence North team is a completely different animal than what Northridge is. This is a legit 6A team that has title aspirations this year. And talking to Coach Mallory, you see why. I mean, just talking to him, you want to go play for him. I mean, Coach Mallory gets it. We've been lucky. We've had 4 coaches on this far as we've started this, Jeff. And I'm telling you what, I'd play for all 4 of them.
Oh, for sure. Here's Jerome Smith, who Tim mentioned earlier, is committed to Miami of Ohio, number 23, ranked in class of 2025, 200-meter champ in Marion County. That's Indy. And then here's Demario Moore, 100-meter and 300-meter hurdles. Anybody that knows track, and I'm sure Coach Mallory would agree, but the 300-meter hurdles is where the best athletes kind of win that event right there, Tim. Just the endurance, and then, with all the hurdles. And Demario looks a little bit like Q Owens, the great Q Owens that played basketball at Lawrence North. I will say that.
Yeah, this is a very talented team, and look at all the pub. I mean, they're getting offers all over. Davion Chandler obviously is committed to IU to play for head coach Kurt Signetti. But these kids are top level kids in the city of Indy, and we're going to see it on full display. Anybody that's in Fort Wayne that's not tied to a local high school, if they're not out at Chambers Field for this matchup, I don't know what to tell you. You may be dead inside. I don't know, but you need to come out to Chambers Field. What is it, $7-8 to get in? Like, go out there for 2 hours. Support the local Fort Wayne team. You Indy people, get up here from Indy. It's hard for us. We don't always. That will hurt our numbers as far as live stream. But we would rather have that
better atmosphere.
We would rather have that packed. We'd have 0 views and have that place packed, and Jeff and I would be okay with it. It's going to be an exciting environment, and then you add the new turf, Jeff, and the redo and all that stuff adds another layer to it. I'm super excited about tomorrow night.
And maybe a little Danny Nolan barbecue tent set up, outside the track. That could be cool too.
There's one thing that's going to happen when you walk into Chambers Field is you are going to smell some barbecue cooking. There is no doubt about that. Sometimes they have food trucks out there as well, but they always have the barbecue cooking out there.
It's gonna be lit for sure. And I liked what Coach Mallory talked about with the seating.
Yes.
Sometimes we feel like we're on our own little bubble and we know how we all feel about it, but you can really feel like it is statewide. And
Yeah.
I know travel is some of a concern, especially nowadays in athletics, where there's so many more things you have to account for as far as purchases are concerned. Now in the day of social media and everything, but I do feel like, you could go north and south for the 1 through 4 classes, and then 5 and 6, just open it up statewide. And I get
And
it,
Jeff, and Jeff, with the 5 and 6A, so those are the larger schools, obviously.
Mhm, mhm.
Those are most of them. I would say 90% of them. They're not riding in the yellow school bus. They're riding in the big travel buses that have air condition.
Snyder did that to
That's
Mishawaka.
they will make it happen. Coaches want to
Yes.
play the best competition, and in 5 and 6A, I mean, when you're like in the city of Fort Wayne, when you're tight, where you only have so many 5 and 6A schools, you're playing the same ones in that sectional. That you played in the regular season. So that's on Coach Mallory's point. Is let's open it up a little bit. And I like that idea that you're talking about, Jeff. To me, that's the start of doing something. But I mean, look at that sectional. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
That sectional. But even after sectional, if you wanted to keep sectionals, to keep that local vibe for sectionals, open up the regional a little bit more, especially with 5 and 6A. Just open it up statewide for after sectional. Let the teams still have their sectionals against their schools around them. But once we get regionals, let's not worry about it being a North regional or a Central regional. Just have it the Indiana regional with 5 and 6A.
The sectionals is what bothers me the most. And it's just because when you see the Homestead Snyder matchup of, when I just keep going back to when Seth Coate was a senior at Homestead, that team was very, very good, but they opened up with Snyder in the sectional and lost because Snyder was very, very, very good that year.
Yeah.
And to me, playoffs is all about traveling.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're good. Yeah, they're going to do it.
I feel like the way we have it right now, sectionals is an extension of the regular season.
And that pretty much is. I mean, that's a perfect example right there in sectional number 6. I mean, that's a perfect example of it. And you hear Coach Mallory talking about it. He's in it. He's into it.
Yeah. And Tim, we see it every year in 4A, where Dwenger and Leo and Columbia City and Wayne and New Haven, these schools are all going to beat each other up there in that sectional, when honestly, you could probably take 4 teams out of that sectional and have 4 sectional winners across the state.
I agree with that. And to me, it's just a little bit more effort and not a great deal. I mean, even with the rankings, we talked about with basketball all the time. You got the Sagarin ratings there.
Yep.
Use them. I mean, it just takes a little bit more effort. Tell me how great the IHSA, the sectional, the announcement of all of that and the playoffs and who's playing where and all that. If it was seeded and you added that layer to it, how many more views is IHSAA getting? In my opinion, it would blow up. As far as the views, to me, it's a no-brainer. But I ain't got no say in it.
Kind of like with the NBA when they do their lottery to see who gets the first pick. You're right. It adds that extra dimension of excitement. And then the other thing that I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, Tim, was that sophomore class at Northside with Caleb and Malik and Leslie Woodson. I mean, I really feel like you got 3 of the better sophomores in the whole SAC right there.
Yeah, we are blessed to have a pretty good sophomore class all around, but Northside's right at the top of that list. There is no doubt about it. Landers is another one that's in that sophomore class. I mean, this team is loaded, and we've talked about it since Caleb was in eighth grade when you were over there at Northwood. The kid is special, Caleb Kingley. The running back that you'll see. We saw glimpses of it last year. I did probably 3 or 4 Northside games. When he touched the ball, it just felt different. It feels different.
Yes.
It's the same thing when you're throwing it up to Malik Moore. It feels different. Yeah. It's those types of players they're already separating themselves. And then when you talk to Coach Johnson about the work ethic of Caleb Kingley, and saying, we're talking right now, and he's probably outside in the backyard doing a cone drill by himself. I mean, what else do you want out of a sophomore kid? And not only that, Jeff, that leadership, he doesn't even have to speak it. It's just being himself and putting in the effort. The other kids are going to gravitate towards that. That's only going to up your program. I love the sophomore class. I know Coach Johnson does, and I know you do as well.
I honestly think Northside could be the top team in the area for the next 2 years because of everything that you just mentioned right there. Some other great sophomores, BJ Johnson, starting cornerback. He had a nice game. He's going to be a kick returner for Northside as well. Tim already mentioned DeMarcus Landers, a sophomore, 5'8", 135, had himself a heck of a game, Tim. 6 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and an interception, with which he returned 57 yards. Marcus Williams, another sophomore at 5'10", 205, a starting outside linebacker to go with Josh Masasu and Quindale White. And then Leslie Woodson, the defensive end, at 6'3", 210.
Yeah, and their center that Coach Johnson is so high about, Darion Goodwin. He's a sophomore as well. I mean, 6'1", 285.
Yeah, and another sophomore is the next man up for the offensive line. That's Marion Engel, who we haven't seen yet. But he's another guy that would be starting for a majority of the teams in Northeast Indiana. And I'm sure we'll see him get some work in this year. But Coach Johnson is really high on Marion Engel, who was Caleb's offensive lineman at Northwood. They played together 8th grade year.
Yeah, that's a big get. Like Coach Johnson mentioned it. It's a big get for them to, with the open enrollment now in Fort Wayne, you can go pretty much where you want to go. The transfers you can get in your way a little bit, but these kids are putting themselves in the right position. It helped that, Josh Masaso, an older brother of Caleb Kingley, already on the roster. So it made it a little bit easier for Coach Johnson. But it's just like what Coach Mallory is doing on a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
The day before week number 2, when he's got to travel up to Fort Wayne, Indiana to take on Northside. Where's he at? He's at the middle school game. And what's he wearing? His Lawrence North gear. It is, you got to be out there. You got to be visible for these kids. For them, lack of a better word, you got to make your school a little sexy, and you got to show them that I'm also going to be there for you.
Right. Yeah, because Coach Mallory, he's got to compete with Lawrence Central for the kids in the middle school. So he's got to put in that work for sure.
Same district, right? In the same district. Yeah, that's insane. It's kind of how Fort Wayne is a little bit. It's really one district almost in Fort Wayne, besides maybe the Carroll, Homestead, maybe out to Wayne. But, it's pretty much all these schools are just a couple of miles apart from each other. It's nothing crazy. So you've got to be out there if you want to, especially keep your own feeder school kids. You got to let them know that they're wanted, and that's a big thing. We've seen kids go to different schools because of that, but I'm sure it played a part in that at times. But I thought it was interesting with Coach Mallory. I like that they're leaving early like that, just in case, that talk about head coach and preparation. Hey, just in case, we've been hydrating them a lot, just in case we got to stop, coaches, head coaches, that's who thinks that way. And
they
good ones
know.
Like Coach Mallory.
Yeah, I said, Coach, it's going to be a high 94. Yeah, but around kickoff, it should be about 85.7 on the turf, maybe 92. It's like, man.
He was spinning that. There ain't no doubt about it, because I'm sure he heard it all week from his kids. These are still teenagers. We got to keep that in mind.
And you better believe that they have assistants on the staff that scrub Twitter looking for some bulletin board material.
There's no doubt about it, and that's what I liked about Coach Johnson's interview. He wasn't too out there with it.
Yeah.
I know he feels confident, but he was not going to give them any material at all.
No. Well, just so you guys know, Northside has 8 starters that are sophomores. None of those are duplicates. 8 sophomore starters, but their quarterback is a senior, Jamari Pearson, senior, and then probably the biggest leader on their team, Tobias Delaney, the right tackle at 6'3", 265, is a senior. So yes, they're young, but they got some really good senior pieces. Devonce Harris as well, the 6'7", 200. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they do have some senior leaderships. It's not all the underclassmen, but those skill players. And I expect Jamari Pearson to really try to take advantage with his size. But talking about that defense, interesting to see them live, Jeff, with us seeing Warren Central last week and that outstanding defense. I just like to see live with my own eyes how those two defenses compare, because if they're anything like Warren Central's defense, and they do have some upper echelon players, it's going to be a tough game for Northside. But like I said, anything can happen. And Northside, with all that momentum after the Northridge win, coming in with the new field at Chambers Field, the one thing about Northside fans is we're 1-0. We're coming out strong. We want to push through and get to 2-0, and then try to make a run through the SAC. So it's going to be an extremely hype environment tomorrow night.
Yeah, someone told me that Woody broke out the Rolodex, and he's calling all the Northside alums to get to Chambers Field on Friday. That's right, Tim.
Oh, I know that's right. When we get out to Chambers Field or in Bahia Arena inside for the basketball, there's usually 2 people that are there 2 hours before the game time. That's me and that's Woody. So I'm set up for 20 minutes, and Woody's broke down even middle school kids to me as I'm setting up the equipment, getting ready for our live stream. Yeah, Woody's a legend, no doubt about that. No pun intended.
And AD Klein would probably be there too. We always see Andrew running around.
There's no doubt about that. There's one thing: it'll be a walkie-talkie attached to Andrew Klein's face, and he'll be walking around all over the stadium at Chambers Field come tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I do think it's safe to say that the Fort Wayne Community School athletic directors are some of the hardest working athletic directors that you are going to find in the state of Indiana, probably the country.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Jeff. I mean, resources aren't like some of the indie schools in some of those communities. It's even up in South Bend. These guys really put in the work to do it. We had a great one last week in Steve Zimbo at Snyder. The Fort Wayne ADs they have set themselves apart in my eyes, and how they've treated us since we started has been outstanding. We got some great ADs, and man, do they work hard. They're the first ones there, and they're the last ones to leave.
Yeah, and one of the first names that comes to mind, obviously, with Gary Raber and Bob Shank and Andrew Klein, and you mentioned Steve Zimbo, but Tori Curry has done a fantastic job over at Southside as well. And you can see that with their programs slowly getting back to a little bit of Southside pride.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, it starts with the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest thing for an AD is hiring the right coach. And that's the hardest thing to do. It's the most important, and it's the hardest. Coach Curry, he's been blessed with having Juanita Goodwell in there on the girls' side, and JJ Foster on the boys' side on basketball, bringing in Andre Goodwell to really try to stamp down that Southside program. And looking year number 2, of course they did get beat by Marion last week in an overtime game. They got a win last year, but it's the kids that we see on the field now. They're on the field for Southside. They're not just walking the hallways, or they're not transferring to other schools. And a lot of that has to do with their athletic director, Torrey Curry. He's an outstanding guy, and I see him out on the baseball field. He's got a son my age of my young son, so we're rivals on the baseball field when it comes summertime. But he's always coming up, talking, and we're shooting the stuff. He's a great one. We got some of the best. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, and I wouldn't want it any other way. That's for sure. I mean, these and the relationships that we've been able to build over the past years has been outstanding.
Well, Tim, you got to get to bed. You got a full day of work tomorrow, and then you'll be at Chambers Field the rest of the night. I'm sure You'll have some kids to tote around in between there as well.
So, I got to eat dinner still. I haven't even went to work, then soccer. Now straight on this, and now I'm gonna go get me some tostadas here.
That sounds like a plan. Well, folks, that was Tim Atkinson. We really appreciate head coach Patrick Mallory joining us from the Lawrence North Wildcats. Once again, tomorrow, still 7 p.m. kickoff, Tim. You haven't heard anything different?
No, and Coach Mallory reaffirmed it. Andrew Klein, the athletic director, said 7 p.m. So, yeah, it's a 7 p.m. kickoff.
So join us, folks, at Chambers Field. Let's pack that place and make it the best environment that we've had at Chambers Field ever since that walk-off field goal by Talamontes a few years back. That was pretty special, but
yeah,
I think it's going to be a special night this Friday too. And I think the Northside fans are going to walk away from that game, win or lose, extremely proud of their team and extremely excited about the future of Coach Ben Johnson and the Northside Legends.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. Northside fans, even if you're not a fan of Northside, you're not affiliated with any high school, come out to Chambers Field. Great food, great atmosphere. It's going to be a hype game. I cannot wait.
And great talent on display, Tim.
No doubt. We're talking D1 caliber players out on Chambers Field on both sides of the football on both teams. It is going to be a lot of talent that you're going to see come Saturdays in the near future.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss not to mention James Early Jr., the defensive end for Northside, senior leader, gets it done on the field, number 28 ranked player in the state. Well, folks, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's a little bit late. If you guys couldn't catch us, hopefully you're going to rewatch on Friday. But that was Tim Atkinson. I'm Jeff Mahoney. We will be at Chambers tomorrow, and we hope to see you there. Definitely say hi or stop up to the press box and just give us a little shout out. We'd love to see you. This is our community. We love it. We try to bring as much excitement and share in what's going on with everybody as much as we can. So thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you at Chambers tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Thanks again, everybody.